Hey, you know our planet's surface is scarred by canyons and valleys that slice deep into the Earth? So for today's video, I'm gonna count down 15 of the deepest canyons and valleys on the planet. Number 15. Cotahuasi Canyon. Located in the remote Arequipa region of southern Peru, is one of the deepest canyons in the world, and one of the least visited. With a measured depth of about 3,300 meters or 11,000 feet from rim to river, it's nearly twice as deep as the Grand Canyon in the US. Despite this, though, it remains largely unknown outside of Peru, partly because of its isolated location in the Andes. The canyon was carved over millions of years by the Cotahuasi River, which cuts through layers of volcanic and sedimentary rock as it flows towards the Pacific. The region sits within the Cotahuasi Sub-Basin Landscape Reserve, established in 2005 to protect this unique ecosystem. The walls expose a record of Peru's geological past. It shows lava flows, granite intrusions, and sedimentary layers that date back tens of millions of years. At its rim, the climate shifts drastically within very short distances. The arid plateaus give way to these lush subtropical riverbanks where crops like corn, quinoa, and alfalfa are cultivated on centuries-old terraced farms. Unlike the more accessible Colca Canyon, which is about 200 kilometers to the east and attracts a large number of tourists, Cotahuasi sees relatively few visitors. Those who do make the trip often come for the trekking, the whitewater rafting, or geological research. Because of its location, scientific study here does remain limited compared to the other famous gorges. The depth measurements vary slightly between the sources, but most geologists agree it exceeds 3,300 meters, and that places it among the deepest known canyons on Earth. Cotahuasi is, quite literally, a world apart. It's an immense scar in the Andes carved by nature and time itself. Number 14. The Colca Canyon, Peru. Located about 160 kilometers northwest of Arequipa, Colca Canyon is one of Peru's most spectacular landmarks and one of the deepest on Earth. It reaches about 3,270 meters at its deepest point, nearly twice that of the Grand Canyon. This valley has been inhabited for more than 1,400 years, long before the arrival of the Inca. Pre-Columbian civilizations like the Colgua and the Cabana people built intricate terrace systems along the canyon walls. Many of these terraces are still in use today, and they create a layered patchwork of green and brown that descends thousands of meters towards the river. The canyon's part of the Andes volcanic zone, framed by snow-capped peaks like Ampato, Sabancaya, and Hualcahualca. These volcanoes have played a major role in shaping this area. Lava flows and ash deposits are visible throughout the canyon walls, and they provide an amazing record of their volcanic history. The region also sits on an active tectonic boundary where the Nazca Plate subducts beneath the South American Plate, which is an ongoing process that continues to shape the land. One of the canyon's most famous inhabitants is the Andean condor. This is one of the world's largest flying birds. The cliffs around Cruz del Condor viewpoint are a prime spot for observing these massive birds, which can have wingspans that exceed 3 meters. Their morning flights using the thermal updrafts from the canyon have become one of the region's main attractions. The Colca River, down there at the bottom of the canyon, supports some small-scale farming, and it serves as a source of hydroelectric power. The climate varies dramatically with altitude, from high Andean tundra at the rim to semi-arid and subtropical conditions at the base. This variation allows for an unusual diversity of crops and wildlife, with vicuñas and llamas grazing above, while hummingbirds and eagles patrol the lower slopes. Tourism has transformed the valley into one of Peru's most visited destinations, second only to Machu Picchu. Despite the increase in visitors, though, many local communities here continue to practice traditional weaving, farming, and celebrations that blend pre-Inca and Catholic traditions. While Cotahuasi Canyon may be deeper, Colca Canyon is better documented and way more accessible, making it the world's best-known example of an ultra-deep canyon. The thriving culture and the sight of condors soaring overhead create one of South America's most remarkable natural landscapes. It's a place where geography and life still intersect every day. Number 13. The Gandaki Gorge. Also known as the Gandaki Canyon, this gorge cuts through the heart of the Nepalese Himalayas, and it's often described as the deepest gorge on Earth, depending on how depth is defined. While its river level sits at 2,500 meters above sea level, it's flanked by two colossal peaks, Dhaulagiri to the west and Annapurna 1 to the east. Measured from the riverbed to the highest summit above, the vertical relief exceeds 5,500 meters, giving it a legitimate claim to the world's deepest gorge. The Gandaki River originates in the Tibetan Plateau and it carves its way south through the Himalayas and eventually joins the Ganges in India. The gorge it creates is a natural wonder, and it's a vital corridor and trade route that's linked Tibet and Nepal for centuries. Even today, villages nearby preserve the traditional Tibetan-influenced architecture and culture here. Geologically, the gorge is extraordinary because it cuts directly across the Himalayan range rather than running parallel to it. This unusual orientation has long intrigued geologists. It does suggest that the river existed before the mountains themselves rose to their current height. That's a phenomenon known as antecedent river. Over millions of years, the river maintained its course while the Himalayas uplifted around it, continuously eroding the rock as fast as the mountains grew. Some sections of the valley exposed fossilized ammonites, which are spiral-shaped marine creatures that lived over 100 million years ago, and this makes it a great site of scientific importance. Locals call these stones shalagrams. In Hindu tradition, they're considered sacred symbols of the god Vishnu. For trekkers here, the gorge forms a central section of the Annapurna Circuit, one of Nepal's most popular long-distance trails. Travelers here experience everything from subtropical forests to barren alpine deserts, crossing the 5,400-meter Thorongla Pass before descending into the gorge. Although the debate continues about how to define deepest canyon, few places on Earth match the Gandaki Gorge. It's a timeless pathway carved by water and the rise of mountains themselves. Number 12. The Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon. The Yarlung Tsangpo, located in southeastern Tibet, is widely recognized as the deepest and longest canyon in the world. It stretches for about 310 miles or 500 kilometers and goes to depths exceeding 5,300 meters. That's over 17,000 feet. It surpasses even the Grand Canyon and Cotahuasi in scale. It was carved by the Yarlung Tsangpo River, and known downstream as the Brahmaputra. This immense gorge slices through one of the most remote and rugged regions on Earth, encircling the peak of Namcha Barwa at 7,782 meters. The canyon begins near a small town and follows the Yarlung Tsangpo River as it winds through the eastern Himalayas before turning sharply south towards India. This dramatic U-shaped bend, called the Great Bend of the Tsangpo, marks where the river drops rapidly from the Tibetan Plateau. Over this descent, it loses more than 2,000 meters of elevation, creating an immense chasm filled with roaring rapids and nearly vertical cliffs. Geologists regard this canyon as a key site for studying mountain formation and river erosion. The region does sit on the active collision zone between the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates. That's the same force that created the Himalayas. The river is one of the highest major rivers in the world, with flows at altitudes that average over 3,000 meters before plunging towards sea level. Because of its isolation and terrain, though, much of it remains unexplored. Expeditions are pretty rare and very dangerous. The river's velocity and continuous waterfalls make it one of the most challenging whitewater routes in existence. Several kayaking expeditions in the late 1990s and early 2000s attempted to navigate it, with limited success and some tragic losses, earning it a reputation as the Everest of rivers. In 2021, Chinese authorities announced plans to develop a large-scale dam project along this river, sparking some environmental concerns due to the canyon's unique ecosystems. But measured by vertical relief, length, and scientific significance, the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon is unparalleled. It's the ultimate expression of what a canyon can be, a place where the forces of uplift and erosion converge, on a scale so big it reshapes not just the land, but our very understanding of what the Earth is capable of. Number 11. Copper Canyon. Copper Canyon isn't a single canyon. It's a complex network of 6 major canyons located in the Sierra Madre Occidental Range in northwestern Mexico's state of Chihuahua. Formed by 6 rivers that drain into the Rio Fuerte, this system covers an area larger than the entire U.S. Grand Canyon, and in several places it reaches even greater depths, up to 6,200 feet from rim to river. Its name comes from the copper-green hue of the canyon walls, caused by oxidized minerals rather than active mining. Erosion does continue to sculpt this region, and it reveals striking rock formations and steep cliffs. The system's largest canyons include Urique, Sinforosa, Batopilas, and Condamania, all deep, narrow, and remote. Among these, Urique Canyon is the deepest. It drops nearly 1,800 meters from rim to the Urique River. And the canyon rims experience cool temperatures here and the occasional frost, and while the river bottoms are subtropical, banana trees and citrus groves thrive year-round there. The region is home to the Raramuri people. It's one of the most resilient indigenous cultures in North America. They're world-renowned for their endurance running. They're able to traverse the steep canyon trails for dozens of miles in homemade sandals, a skill honed by necessity in their homeland. But despite its natural and cultural richness, much of the Copper Canyon remains underdeveloped. The most famous route through it is commonly known as the El Chepe, a railway that took over 60 years to complete. It crosses 37 bridges and 86 tunnels as it winds through the canyons. Of course, tourism has grown, especially in towns like Creel and Divasadero, where viewpoints provide amazing vistas of the canyons. Yet, despite its growing accessibility, the region is rugged and remote. Many areas can only be reached by foot or by mule, and that preserves the wilderness that defines it. It's more than just a single chasm. Copper Canyon is a labyrinth of human endurance and geological depth. It's a living landscape that captures the raw power of erosion. Number 10. The Fish River Canyon. The Fish River Canyon in southern Namibia is Africa's largest canyon. It stretches for about 160 kilometers or 100 miles, and it reaches depths of up to 1,800 feet. It was formed by the combined effects of tectonic activity and millions of years of erosion by the Fish River. The result is a landscape of towering cliffs and barren plateaus that reveal over 500 million years of geological history. The canyon's origins date back to the late Precambrian period, when tectonic forces began to crack and uplift the African crust. The Fish River later exploited the faults, which carved a deep, meandering channel as the climate alternated between wet and dry. During wetter periods, torrential floods widened and deepened the canyon. During dry phases, the erosion slowed, which left behind the distinct step walls that define its profile today. Despite this harsh environment, though, it supports a surprising variety of wildlife. Baboons, rock hyraxes, and antelope species like kudu and oryx are common near the rim, while birds of prey patrol the thermals rising from the canyon floor. One of the most famous attractions here is the Fish River Hiking Trail. This is a demanding 5-day trek that follows 85 kilometers of the river's winding course. It is considered one of Africa's toughest hikes due to the extreme heat and rocky terrain. Permits are strictly limited to preserve the desert ecosystem, and hiking is only allowed during the colder months. The whole canyon is part of a Richtersveld Transfrontier Park, a cross-border conservation area that was jointly managed by Namibia and South Africa, and this park protects a unique desert biome which is characterized by endemic plants like the quiver tree and the halfmans, a peculiar plant found only in this part of the world. Unlike deeper canyons with lush vegetation or rivers in full flow, Fish River Canyon's starkness is what defines its beauty. Its emptiness and sense of scale create a reminder of the Earth's geologic past. Standing at the rim, your eye follows the winding river far below. It's a timeless view of erosion and persistence. Number 9. The Tiger Leaping Gorge, China. Located in Yunnan Province in southwestern China, Tiger Leaping Gorge is one of the world's deepest gorges. It cuts through the Hengduan Mountains, where the Jinsha River, a major upper tributary of the Yangtze River, races between two peaks, Jade Dragon Snow Mountain and Haba Snow Mountain. At its narrowest point, the canyon floor is about 3,800 meters below the mountaintops, and that creates a staggering sense of vertical relief. According to legend, the gorge gets its name from a story that a tiger once leapt across the river at its narrowest point, just 25 meters wide, to escape a hunter. While this tale is obviously apocryphal, it captures the gorge's fierce energy and scale. The sound of the river is a constant, deep, thunderous roar that echoes the dangers of this terrain. The gorge extends for roughly 9 miles, that's about 15 kilometers. It's divided into 3 main sections, the upper, middle, and lower gorge. The upper gorge is the most accessible, with roads and viewing platforms that attract thousands of people each year. The middle gorge is narrower and wilder, popular with trekkers who navigate trails. And the lower gorge, which is more remote, remains largely undeveloped, and it gives a sense of the canyon's raw power. The surrounding area is home to the Nashi people, an ethnic minority with a distinct language, matrilineal traditions, and deep connections. Their villages dot the gorge's slopes, surrounded by terraced fields that appear to defy gravity. And despite the influx of tourism, many residents continue traditional farming and weaving practices here. While development projects, including proposed hydropower dams, have at times threatened this environment, public opposition and its inclusion in a UNESCO World Heritage region, the three parallel rivers of Yunnan protected areas, has helped preserve its natural state. Today, Tiger Leaping Gorge is an immense fissure that shows the balance between human life and the raw carving power of water and stone. Number 8. The Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon in northern Arizona is arguably the most famous canyon in the world. Though not the deepest, it is one of the most scientifically significant gorges on Earth. It was carved by the Colorado River over the past 5 to 6 million years. It stretches for about 277 miles and reaches a maximum depth of just over 6,000 feet from rim to river. But the Grand Canyon exposes nearly 2 billion years of the Earth's geologic history, making it a natural classroom for geologists. Its colorful rock layers record ancient environments from oceans and deserts to mountain ranges that have long vanished. The oldest rocks, the Vishnu schist, date back to around 1.8 billion years ago, while the youngest layers of the rim are roughly 270 million years ago. Now, geographically, the canyon's divided into the South Rim and the North Rim. Each offers distinct perspectives. The South Rim, accessible by road year-round, has most of the park's infrastructure and receives the majority of visitors. The North Rim is higher in elevation and cooler in climate. It's less crowded and open only seasonally. Between the two lies a vast wilderness that can only be reached by steep trails that descend to the Colorado. The canyon has deep cultural and spiritual significance. It's been inhabited for at least 12,000 years by indigenous groups, including the Havasupai, the Hopi, the Navajo, Hualapai, and Zuni. Many of these groups consider the canyon sacred. Ancient Puebloan dwellings, petroglyphs, and artifacts can still be found throughout this region, and it offers insight into the area's long human history. In 1919, the Grand Canyon was designated a U.S. National Park, and in 1979, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Today, it attracts around 5 million people each year. Activities range from hiking and rafting to scientific research and stargazing. Beyond the statistics, though, the Grand Canyon's scale is almost impossible to convey. When you're standing at the rim, you can see layer upon layer of rock just descending into shadow, each band representing an ancient chapter of the Earth's history. The Colorado River, appearing small from above, continues to carve its way through the desert plateau as it has for millions of years. This is one of the world's greatest landscapes, and it shows that it's not quickly built, but sculpted patiently by time and the steady force of nature. Moving on to number 7, the Indus Gorge in Pakistan. The Indus Gorge, this cuts through the western Himalayas in northern Pakistan. It's formed by the mighty Indus River, which originates near Mount Kailash in Tibet, and it flows over 3,000 kilometers to the Arabian Sea. At its most extreme point, where the river slices between Nanga Parbat and the Karakoram Range, the vertical relief from the riverbed to the surrounding peak exceeds 7,000 meters. That's 23,000 feet. This makes it, by many measurements, the deepest mountain gorge on the planet. The collision between the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates created both the Himalayas and the Karakoram, and the Indus River predates that uplift. As the mountains rose, the river just continued cutting downward, maintaining its course in defiance of the geological forces. This makes the Indus Gorge an antecedent river valley. This is a feature geologists regard as crucial to understanding how the world's highest mountains have evolved. The river flows at around 1,000 meters above sea level, and it passes directly beneath cliffs that soar up 8,000 meters. This sheer vertical difference is greater than anywhere else on Earth, and it's a juxtaposition of the lowest and highest terrain in such close proximity that gives the region one of its most dramatic landscapes. But despite the remoteness, the Indus Gorge has been a long part of human history. The Upper Indus Valley formed a key section of the ancient trade routes that connected Central Asia with South Asia. Small villages still cling to the cliffs here, where people practice terrace farming and herd amid extreme conditions. Modern scientific expeditions to the gorge remain rare due to the difficult access and, of course, political sensitivities along the Indo-Pakistani border. Still though, satellite imagery and limited field studies continue to reveal new insights into its depth and geology. For all its power and danger, the gorge is also a place of immense beauty. Snow-covered peaks reflect the turbulent river far below, glaciers feed streams that tumble into the main channel, and narrow terraces cling impossibly to the slopes. The Indus Gorge is a monument to the Earth's tectonic violence, and a reminder of water's unmatched patience, cutting through the planet's tallest mountains just to reach the sea. Number 6. Kings Canyon, Australia. Located in the heart of Australia's Northern Territory, Kings Canyon is one of the country's most dramatic formations, and a centerpiece of the Wartarka National Park. Though not the deepest canyon in the world, the sandstone cliffs, the ancient rock layers, and cultural importance here make it one of the most extraordinary valleys on the continent. The canyon goes to depths of about 885 feet or 270 meters, with walls that glow deep red and orange under the desert sun. Now, King Canyon sits roughly 300 kilometers southwest of Alice Springs, in the transition zone between the Central Desert and the plateaus of George Gill Range. The gorge we see today was carved primarily by seasonal rainfall and the slow forces of wind erosion, which reveals stratified walls that tell a geological story much older than the Australian continent itself. And one of the coolest features is the contrast between the desert terrain above and the lush vegetation below. The canyon floor has a permanent waterhole known as the Garden of Eden, surrounded by ferns and ghost gums that have survived this protected microclimate for millions of years. Some plant species found here are relics from prehistoric rainforests that once covered central Australia, surviving only because of the canyon's shade and moisture. The plateau above the canyon, by contrast, is arid and rugged, dotted with rounded sandstone domes that resemble giant beehives. This area is known as the Lost City, and its eroded formations create one of the most surreal desert landscapes. The Rim Walk, a 6-kilometer hiking trail that circles the canyon's upper edge, offers amazing views of the cliffs, the Lost City, and the distant plains. Kings Canyon does also hold immense cultural significance for the Luritja people, the traditional owners of Wartarka, and the name Wartarka refers to an acacia tree species important to their people for its edible seeds and medicinal uses. The surrounding land is part of their dreaming stories, which describe the creation of the land and its connection to ancestral beings. Visitors are asked to respect restricted areas, many of which are considered sacred sites. The canyon supports more than 600 plant species, including rare and desert wildflowers that bloom briefly after rain, and the cliffs provide nesting sites for peregrine falcons and spinifex pigeons, while the lower valley has reptiles and small marsupials that are adapted to both desert and woodland habitats. Unlike many of the world's deep canyons, Kings Canyon is defined as much by color and light as it is by its scale. To the indigenous people and to the travelers alike, it remains a place of profound stillness, a geological cathedral carved not by a river, but by time, weather, and the patient persistence of nature. Number 5. The Blyde River Canyon. The Blyde River Canyon, located in northeastern South Africa, is one of the largest green canyons in the world. Unlike most Great Canyons, which cut through dry, barren landscapes, Blyde River Canyon is covered with lush tropical vegetation. Its depth goes down about 800 meters, that's 2,600 feet, and it extends for about 16 miles along the course of the Blyde River. The canyon forms part of the Drakensberg Escarpment. This is a geological formation that marks the edge of South Africa's Central Plateau. Over millions of years, the Blyde River carved its way through the dolomite and sandstone layers, creating these cliffs, pinnacles, and amphitheaters. The landscape offers amazing views of forested slopes, waterfalls, and high plateaus that stretch towards Kruger National Park to the east. One of the most famous viewpoints here is God's Window, where visitors can look out from the top of the escarpment across the low-veld savanna thousands of feet below. Another is the Three Rondavels. This is a trio of towering rock formations resembling traditional African huts, shaped by erosion-resistant quartzite layers. The ecosystem here is among the most diverse in Africa. It supports hundreds of plant species, including ferns and wildflowers, as well as an array of wildlife. Vervet monkeys, bush bucks, hippos, and crocodiles all inhabit the river surrounding the forest, while fish eagles and falcons soar above the cliffs. This region also forms part of a Blyde River Canyon Nature Reserve, which protects over 30,000 acres of highland and riverine habitat. Culturally, the area holds significance for local peoples, including the Mapulana, whose name for the river, Motlase, meaning place of flowing water, reflects its life-giving importance. This is one of South Africa's top natural attractions. It's often included in scenic drives along the panorama route, and visitors can hike, raft, or view the canyon by air in small planes or helicopters. Unlike the desert canyons of the world, Blyde is alive, a deep green world carved not only by water and time, but also sustained by them. Number 4. The Tara River Canyon. Located along the border between Montenegro and Bosnia-Herzegovina is Europe's deepest and one of its most pristine river valleys, the Tara River Canyon. Reaching a depth of around 1,300 meters or 4,200 feet, the canyon goes on for 51 miles through the Dinaric Alps, cutting a path through the rugged limestone landscapes of the Balkans. It forms part of the Durmitor National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site known for its karst formations. The canyon owes its existence to the Tara River. It's often called the Tear of Europe for its crystal-clear turquoise water. Over millions of years, Tara has carved through layers of dolomite and limestone, which created these caves and cascading waterfalls, all of which contribute to the canyon's fractured beauty. Durmitor National Park has a wide range of elevations, from deep gorges to peaks exceeding 2,500 meters. It's home to dense forests of black pine, beech, and fir, and some trees here are estimated to be over 400 years old and reach over 50 meters tall. Wildlife includes brown bears, wolves, lynxes, and golden eagles, and they all thrive in one of Europe's least disturbed ecosystems. The Tara River itself is internationally renowned for whitewater rafting, particularly in spring and early summer when the snow melt swells up the current. Rafting expeditions often cover a 25-kilometer stretch that features over 20 rapids and views of sheer limestone walls that rise hundreds of meters over your head. Small medieval bridges, monasteries, and stone villages are scattered along its length too, evidence of centuries of settlement in this remote region. One of the most famous structures is the Tara Bridge, completed in 1940. Spanning about 360 meters across the canyon, it was an engineering marvel of its time, and it remains one of the most photographed landmarks in Montenegro. The canyon is also part of a protected biosphere zone, and major development projects like proposed hydroelectric dams have faced strong opposition. Thanks to efforts, the Tara River continues to flow freely, one of the few major European rivers that remains entirely undammed. The Tara River Canyon is Europe's answer to the world's great gorges, a place where clear water, ancient rock, and unspoiled wilderness combine in breathtaking harmony. Number 3. The Verdon Gorge in France. In southeastern France, the Verdon Gorge is often called Europe's most beautiful canyon. It stretches for about 15 miles or 25 kilometers, and it goes down to depths of about 2,300 feet or about 700 meters. It was carved by the Verdon River, which flows from the French Alps into the artificial lake. What makes the gorge unique is not only its scale, but the striking color of its water, that turquoise, caused by glacial minerals suspended in the river. Over millions of years, it was formed by the Verdon River that was slicing through ancient formations, which revealed dramatic cliffs and sculpted natural alcoves and rock towers. The result is one of Europe's most dramatic examples of erosion. The surrounding cliffs and forests are home to golden eagles, vultures, ibex, and numerous plants that are adapted to this Mediterranean climate. Its varying altitudes, from alpine meadows to dry scrubland, support a mix of ecosystems, and the upper rim offers amazing views of the Alps, while the lower valley transitions into lavender fields and olive groves, typical of southern France. Modern access to the canyon began in the early 20th century, when roads were built along the rim. 2 scenic drives now circle the gorge: the Route de Crête, which offers multiple viewpoints along sheer drop-offs, and the Corniche Sublime, a winding road that hugs the southern cliffs. These routes offer some of the most famous vistas in Europe, especially near the Balcons de la Mescla, where the river twists through a series of hairpin bends. The river itself, of course, is a hot spot for kayaking, rafting, and canyoning, while hiking trails take visitors deep into the canyon floor. This area around the gorge has been inhabited since prehistoric times. Archaeological finds include Neolithic tools and Bronze Age pottery, and small villages nearby retain their medieval architecture. These settlements along the limestone ridges all just add to the scenic charm of this place. Although smaller in scale than the canyons of the Andes or the Himalayas, the Verdon's Gorge combination of depth and color make it one of the most visually captivating canyons. It's set against the timeless backdrop of the French countryside. Number 2. Waimea Canyon, Hawaii. Known as the Grand Canyon of the Pacific, Waimea Canyon on the island of Kauai is one of the most remarkable formations in the Hawaiian archipelago. Though far smaller than Arizona's Grand Canyon, it is geologically unique and visually amazing. It extends about 10 miles or 16 kilometers in length and up to 1,100 meters or 3,600 feet deep, and it's roughly a mile wide. The combination of deep red volcanic rock, green vegetation, and mist make it one of the most colorful landscapes in the Pacific. Kauai, the oldest of the main Hawaiian islands, was created about 5 million years ago by volcanic eruptions, and over time, massive rainfall and the collapse of part of the island's volcanic structure allowed rivers to cut deep into the basaltic lava. The name Waimea means reddish water in Hawaiian. That refers to the color of the river that flows through the canyon, tinted by oxidized iron in the soil. Waterfalls cascade into it from the highlands, particularly after heavy rains, and clouds often roll over the rim that create a constantly shifting light and shadow pattern across the cliffs. Waimea Canyon sits at the western edge of Waimea Canyon State Park, and from the canyon's rim you can see all the way to Niihau, Hawaii's privately owned Forbidden Island. The upper reaches of the canyon receive some of the heaviest rainfall on the planet. Mount Waialeale averages over 1,100 millimeters, that's 400 inches annually, and this intense rain feeds the Waimea River and countless smaller tributaries, which continue to deepen the canyon even today. In contrast, the lower sections near the town of Waimea are dry and semi-arid, which shows the island's dramatic climate gradients over very short distances. The first European to record the area was Captain James Cook, who landed near the mouth of the Waimea River in 1778, marking the first documented European contact with Hawaii. But today, it's one of Kauai's most visited natural attractions, and despite its popularity, much of the canyon remains wild and untouched. The layered cliffs reveal the island's volcanic origins and the relentless erosive power of water. It may not rival the world's deepest gorges, but it captures something equally profound: the story of a living island carved by time, rain, and fire into one of the Pacific's most breathtaking masterpieces. Number 1. Hell's Canyon, United States. Straddling the border between Oregon and Idaho, Hell's Canyon is the deepest river gorge in North America and one of the most imposing natural features in the U.S. Carved by the Snake River, it goes to depths of over 7,900 feet, that's 2,400 meters. That's deeper than the Grand Canyon and among the deepest places on the planet. Hell's Canyon was formed over millions of years through combined forces, volcanic activity, and river incision. Around 17 million years ago, a massive basaltic lava flow from the Columbia River Basalt Group blanketed the region, creating an immense plateau that stretched across parts of today's Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Over the course of millions of years, uplift of the surrounding mountain ranges, the Wallawas to the west and the Seven Devils to the east, accelerated the erosive power, deepening the gorge to its present form. Now, geographically, it extends for about 93 miles along the Snake River, beginning at the confluence with the Salmon River in Idaho and running north to the Lower Granite Dam near Lewiston. The canyon walls do vary dramatically in appearance. On the Oregon side, slopes rise sharply and are covered with grasslands and scattered plains. On the Idaho side, cliffs are steeper and more barren, with exposed layers of basalt and ancient granite. This creates a visually amazing landscape, particularly at sunrise and sunset when the rock faces glow in shades of red, gold, and deep brown. Wildlife is abundant and includes bighorn sheep, mountain goats, elks, cougars, and golden eagles, and the Snake River itself does support a population of trout, sturgeon, and salmon, though dams downstream have significantly altered migration patterns over the past century. Culturally, the history of it stretches back more than 10,000 years. There's archaeological sites that show indigenous peoples, including the Nez Perce, the Shoshone Bannock, and the Paiute tribes, hunted, fished, and lived along the river for millennia. Pictographs and petroglyphs can still be seen on the canyon walls depicting scenes of animals, hunting, and daily life. The Nez Perce, who called the river the place of the coyote, maintain strong cultural ties to this region even today. European-American settlers arrived in the 1800s, attempting to farm and ranch along the canyon's rugged slopes, but the terrain proved unforgiving, and by the early 20th century, most homesteads had been abandoned, leaving only scattered remains of cabins and equipment that now serve as landmarks. Today, Hell's Canyon is protected as part of a Hell's Canyon National Recreation Area. It encompasses over 900,000 acres of wilderness. It is a destination for hikers, rafters, and geologists who come to experience its power firsthand. Whitewater rafting along the Snake River here is especially popular, with rapids ranging from gentle stretches to intense Class 4 sections that wind between these towering cliffs. Few places capture the raw intensity of the American landscape quite like Hell's Canyon. Standing at the rim, looking down nearly 8,000 feet to the churning river below, you'll see a landscape both ancient and alive, a natural monument to rock and time, working endlessly together to carve the deepest canyon in North America.